Welcome to another Mapping It Out Wednesday. I'm very excited about this Wednesday. We have an amazing coach and consultant that we will be talking to today. And what makes her amazing is that, one, she provides amazing resources to not just the motivational map community, but to people who have taken those maps. And you can find some of her resources, which we're going to talk about in a moment, online and where you can find those resources. She is a coach, a consultant. She uses motivational maps. She works with managers and senior leadership. She also works with graduate students who have gone through MBA programs, to really help them understand their leadership. And she does so much more. She works with peers. I could go on and on and on. But before I let you know who is our guest, I'm going to bring out our motivational master herself, Akila Davis. Hi, Akila.
Hi, Marie. Thank you very, very much. And I can't say how excited I am to have Suzanne on the show.
Yes.
You don't know this because it was before you came on, but Suzanne was my mainstay. She has given so much to this motivational map community. And she not only brings her, I have to say, she was, I think it was last year, named one of the 20 top coaches in Ottawa.
Oh, wow.
And she rivals me, or I'm not sure if I rival her, in certifications. If there is a certification that she thinks will help her clients, she gets it. And in addition to her motivational maps and Enneagrams and all of that, she brings to the table her ICF certification. And she is an extremely wonderful woman. And as I said, I'm so excited to have her on the show today.
I am too. I'm really excited to get to know her. I've had the wonderful privilege of learning more and more about her and within the community, as well as just learning about her through like the work that she's done. And I'm so excited about this one. I cannot wait. So without further ado, let's just stop talking about this wonderful woman and bring her out. Suzanne Durand is here, and let's get her on stage. Hello, Suzanne.
Hi. Well, thank you for the boost of dopamine. It's a good start to our conversation. Reinforcing feedback. Which you should. Bonjour, bonjour.
Bienvenue.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, thank you for coming. So with that, Akila, would you like to begin?
Yes. Suzanne, you have done so much, and you have so much you could potentially talk about. I would like to know what you want to focus on today. So if you will give us an overview, and then we can get into it. Thank you.
Well, maybe I can start with, two of the topics we wanted to look at. And starting with the model of the 9 core needs that was created, from the motivational maps. And it really started out with a conversation 3 years ago with Marie-France Lefort that you've had as a guest on your show, on how maps are really a relationship activator. And I thought that was brilliant because it's not about rushing building a relationship, but it's about being able to go deeper and also faster. It's a little bit like when we tell people about coaching. You probably will get there yourself someday, but it could take you a lot longer. And so I find that maps do help meet a core. We all have, an organization, whether you're hiring, you're onboarding, you're trying to navigate tensions. We all have at the heart, we want to establish connection. So I find that motivational maps are a tool that allow you to make connections. And how do you make connections? Well, you make connections when you really see the person, when they really sense there's a genuine, that they are seen and that you are concerned about what matters to them. So how do you find out what matters to them? Well, this is where you go back to needs. And there's been psychologists. Carol Dweck did some wonderful work around, the 3 categories. that really relate to the to our achievement cluster and our relationship cluster. And so did McClellan, a psychologist in the 19th century, the 20th century. The only thing is, with MAPS, what's been included, and I think it's because of the Maslow's hierarchy of need, that was one of the three models along with the Enneagram, that created it. And it gave us that cluster around growth, that cluster about what matters. And so, all of this unfolded over 3 years into now, these 9 needs. And I believe that when you look at the needs, you're starting with pain points, which, as coaches, we're always told, what are your clients' pain point? And then find a way to meet those. So, that terminology of needs. So if you have, for instance, a defender who needs a lot of security, who, has a higher need of it, you can never get full certainty, but then you can really speak with them at that level and get deeper with them sooner if you have a sense of where they are. That is what matters to them most. Not that the other needs don't matter, but that one to them is most important. So you can connect at that level. So that's, the work that's unfolded since I've started to engage with MAPS for the last 5 years now, and adding it to my practice.
And if people want to learn more about those 9 core needs, you have articles on LinkedIn that kind of go through that, what those 9 needs are and how they correlate to motivation, correct?
Yes, actually the 9 needs came out of the 8th and final article that Maddie Klaus and I co-wrote over 2 years. And the newsletter now address the needs, each of the needs. It's called Mapping Motivation. And I've begun with the 9 needs. Each one has their own issue. And then I will go into teams and other aspects of MAPS to give practical information that leaders, once you have your profile, what do you do with it? You get excited and people get together and they love it and they find things out about each other. But long term, how can you maximize its usefulness? So this is what these resources are aiming to provide.
Suzanne, before we go further into this, it's fascinating. I wanted to ask you, I know you've worked with teams in government. What was one particular one that really satisfied you from the problem to the outcome? Would you mind telling us just a couple of minutes synopsis of that?
Well, to me, when you're working with a team that engages fully in it, it's not only a one-day debrief, but they're willing to engage over maybe a period of a year and to do work in between, because there is such a thing as team practices, and and then to have checkpoints. So if you can engage in a let's say an 8-month program, because I do encourage people to take their summer off, especially in Canada, we value it so much, and to work with it over a few years time. I've had a team who did that over at least 18 months. And they get much more value from it, because every time you build on it and it gets, the understanding gets deeper, and they also can share their wins from it. When they get back together, everybody, they share in between, but then we can bring it together, integrate it. So there's some integrating component to it. And it's just like individual coaching. It doesn't happen in 3 conversations. It could. I mean, anything's possible, but for having major shift in a way that we operate, usually it takes at least I say a good 8 months. We can do it in less time, but it takes time to shift what we've learned that served us for a long time, and then until it doesn't serve us anymore.
Yeah. And one of the things I have found in working with teams is doing this year after year, like doing the survey and then following up on it, and doing more survey and the next survey and following up on it. The key to this is not just Motivational Map understands you, but it's giving that hard number that's measurable. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, you make a good point, because one of the reasons that I really, decided to, sign up for another certification is that I find it very, very practical. And it actually quantifies an element that really is subjective, motivation. Like, normally they say you can't, but you really do. And those numbers, and of course, we always have a surprise number in the individual and team. You can actually not only know what are your dominant needs or motivator, because they may not always be need, very high need, but usually you have three dominant ones. But you can also know to what degree you're satisfied in them.
Mhm.
So it actually targets the work you want to do. And with a team, you need to kind of do everything. But if you can only do three things, what are the three things we can do for my team's profile?
Mhm.
And so, and usually when you engage in a team profiling, there's a lot of experts that's in government. So that really hits home with them, because they love to learn, they love to grow, they like things that are rigorous, they love things that have numbers. It's not just a a feeling. It really resonates for the people that, friend and belonging, because finally we're all in here and we're not just working, we're getting to know each other. It really speaks to people that have a high need for purpose, because they can finally get together and talk about what matters to us and
Mhm.
to our clients, and how are we meeting those, the needs of our client. And then I could go on and on to all the nine, the nine motivators and needs. But so right off the ground, it's a really powerful, for lack of a better word, we use it so much, but and the word that often comes out too for people is insightful. It's so insightful. For some people, teams or even or individual, it will it will confirm what they really had a sense, and gives words to it, gives a vocabulary to it, gives a framework to it. For others, there are real discoveries. They
Mhm.
understand why they're not happy or not satisfied, and then what they can do about it. Because I always say it's a shared responsibility motivation. It's not on the shoulder, only the shoulders of the leader. You own your part. What the leader has to do is prepare the soil, create the environment,
Yep.
where these plants can flourish, and you're the plant, and you've got to be able to own um, part of that responsibility.
That's a beautiful metaphor. I,
Yeah,
I love that. That's a
yeah,
really beautiful
yeah.
metaphor.
Gardens. We're in the summer here, so
Yeah.
the 6 months we're like
So so kind of playing along with that a little bit. So there you've also written about the five challenges, the workplace challenges that people have. So as leaders, our responsibility is to make sure that soil is fertile, continuing with your
exactly.
analogy. What are those challenges, those five workplace challenges that
Well, the challenges are often around, the activities. So,
Mhm.
first you are hiring and and you're recruiting and hiring,
Mhm.
and you want to make sure you have the best people for a role, right? The best fit, and that serves the person being hired, and it serves the organization. And I know that Keila, you have used the tool to help identify the profile. And actually there is an article on that. I think it's our third article,
Mhm.
and it gives case scenarios, so you can really see when you have a choice, especially if you're getting in the VP level, senior level, you've got excellent candidates, and you might want to have this to help explore, like the best fit possible. um, and then when you have onboarding, and that was a huge issue, during the pandemic. And now there's hybrid. And now, of course, there's the whole dilemma of people being brought back to work. That's for another conversation. So again, like I saw someone with an high expert motivator and a need, for mastery, they're going to want you to have your game together when you walk in.
Mhm.
They want to be structured. They want to know, they want to have a rigorous program, not just, well, here's a coffee and here's your desk and here's your task, which once happened to me many years ago.
Yeah.
So I know what it feels like. And then you have, the mentoring, right? And I do think, and there's an article on that too in our series of 8 articles. And by the way, the first newsletter issue has all of the 8 articles included in one place. So if you sign up, subscribe to the newsletter, you get to the first one on the needs that drive people. You're going to get all of that information. And so mentoring is perfect for this because, in mentoring, you want to mentor people. So who would be the best fit? And it's not always you want people the same. No, you want, people to bring different things, but you also want to see, well, what could be a bit of tension there. And then people go in there informed and then they talk about it. And in fact, they can help each other out because they probably have people on their team with whom a certain motivator, might cause some tension. And of course, navigating tension. I mean, that is one of the most major, I think, challenge. We want different teams, right? We don't want everybody thinking the same. We don't all want like defenders around the table. They're beautiful people. They make sure we don't make mistake. They're efficient. They can deal with routine. Like in government, there's a lot of red tape, and that's okay. We need that. That's accountability. But you can't have only people with the same profile. So where there's differences, there's going to be tension. Yes. And I don't like, people, you read a lot and it's okay. Everybody has their viewpoint on that. But that conflict is good. I think that tension is good. Mm-hmm. I think that conflict, because we have so much difficulty handling it because of our nervous system, because of neuroscience can give us a lot of information on that we end up not being able to manage it well, and it becomes actually harmful and even toxic. So why not prevent it from becoming a conflict if you can learn to navigate tension? And there's actually 2 articles on that. I mean, there could be a book on it, of course, and there will be more. I mean, we're creating more material, not just myself, but others. So this is where, it's back to the connection. It establishes a connection, because if you don't have a connection during tension, it's going to be much harder. But if you already know each other better, and people can actually use humor. That's what I find in teams, when we're sharing these profiles and all of this, and then they start to tease each other and say, aha, now I know why you do that. And, not that you want to stereotype, but they can use that to name it, to put it out there, to even laugh about it, and then to discuss it and to really conversation, con means together, to have a real conversation and work something out.
Actually, one of the other things you said, something there that really struck me. It's not just to name it, but to own it.
And to own it. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Because, in a conflict, again, there's always more than one person in it. Confrontation is the same. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you have to confront people, but with respect, with openness. And, when you already know each other's profile and you've been working on it, you can actually open the conversation with that. And that, talking about each other's and how that could cause a potential. Mm-hmm. We say potential. We're not saying because you're this and that's going to happen. And so let's look at that together, because we know there's a potential there. And why is this happening? Because we also bring all of our own, origin story and our own selves, right? Mm-hmm. There's not one person, even if you share a same dominant motivator, who's the same. No. So it's we still all unique. But we have a starting point. We have a common language. And, language, a universal language in a way, around navigating through tensions.
And feelings.
And, well, the tensions, cause feelings, right? Well, there's emotions, they cause feelings. And then feelings, this is where neuroscience is interesting. There's the predictive brain theory. And this is new. It's been worked on for 30 years. But, our experiences make us up. So a lot of our feelings that come up is because we have some preconceived story in our head. Well, we don't, it's all subconscious. And then we make a prediction. Oh, that person comes in here, look at that. They want the awards. So we make all these stories up and we embellish them. and then the emotions come up, and then the feelings follow. And then what happens is that person comes up, they may have more need for recognition, but they may also be someone who really wants the team to look good, right? So if they look good, everybody looks good. So we make a prediction error. And when we make a prediction error, we act on information that is not correct.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe we are more cool with them. You know, we're respectful, but we don't really bring them in the conversation. We kind of keep our distance. You know, we do minimum interaction. And then guess what? Tension arises, and then conflict arises, and then, well, let's not go there. There's another whole session. So this is where neuroscience can help us, you know, in terms of reframing, right? Because the reframing is the practice around the prediction error. And so it's only one of the neuroscience that supports, you know, the motivational maps and the work we do as we get to understand it, understand ourselves, understand others. Because that's the other part, right? We have to understand ourselves first.
Yes.
That's why I have a program designed. It's Leader Know Thyself. It has an Enneagram, you know, personality profiling. It has a motivational profiling. It has a leadership origin story. It has leader intelligence practices. It's very, very comprehensive. It's over 6 to 8 months, but people come out with they sense a change, and teams can do that too. They just know something has changed, and it is easier because after 35 years, you know, of a career in mostly leadership, but on the front line up to senior level, it can get hard, it can get heavy. And that's not good for mental or physical health. And it doesn't give you energy to face all the increasing challenges, it seems, you know. So the whole idea of knowing yourself, but that also allows you to know other. And with self-awareness, we need self-compassion for ourselves and for others. But we can't have compassion for others if we can't have it for ourselves, if we keep judging ourselves. So, you know, it's just beautiful how it unfolds when you understand yourself and you see the pieces that come together and you see your gifts, and you see that when you overuse your gift, you sometimes get in trouble, and you see that you can actually learn to tap into the other motivators, right? So maybe our team needs a little bit more, we need to be seen.
Mm-hmm.
Because in government, I often find that the star is the last one, and they're kind of proud of that. And I say, okay, at budget time, what's going to happen? Who do you think is going to get cut if nobody really knows what you're doing or how you matter? And they go, oh, that's interesting. So maybe we do have to find a way that's not rah, we're the best, and we put everybody else down. That's not the way. But the way of saying, you know, there are ways, you know, and we go through that. How can you make sure that senior management knows the value you bring? And maybe when you want an extra position for your team, that's when you're going to get it, and you won't get cut one. So, so this is how it all, you know, it all blends in. It's all integrated.
That's a beautiful reframing of, for example, the star, because it allows someone who has a low star to really see it differently. Because you really frame that question around their mission and their purpose.
Yeah.
So that was, you know, that's a really beautiful reframing. And again, I think it goes back to what you said in the beginning. It's understanding the language as well as understanding that self-awareness of self, and then to be able to have that shared language.
Yes, it really is, right? Having that, you know, the word shared. Yes. Shared in a world that can be very individualistic, and in a world that, you know, we're so afraid of scarcity with all that is happening. And this, again, where the neuroscience, and we all know about the neuroscience of that, but, you know, the neuroscience of that has shifted from the triune brain, which, you know, the reptilian, the limbic, and the neocortex, to one that is that is a theory of the two emotions route, whereby when we are triggered, we actually have a choice between a short loop to go immediately to being triggered in the amygdala, or we have a long loop that can actually go through our our prefrontal cortex, which is our, central executive, um, and we can make choices there. We can get more rational. We can, bring down the feelings and say, okay, that person's afraid here. Instead of us also being defensive, okay, something's concerning that person. And so again, the neuroscience around, the tensions and the worry about scarcity and being individualist instead of staying in our more collective space.
Here's a question I had not planned on asking, but I'm going to anyway. What would you say has been the gift to you of motivational maps? And I will start by saying for me, once I understood through the maps who I am and how I got to be who I am, I stopped being judgmental because I understand you can't judge people because you never know them. So,
Yes. Well, I think for me, it was a compliment. It complemented my decades long, 15 years of work with the Enneagram, which is a personality typing. So it's different than motivation, although personality doesn't change per se, but we can also access all 9 personalities in that model, all the gifts of each. So to me, it was a beautiful complement. And here I'm talking more in terms of what it allows me to give to my clients. Okay. Because the Enneagram is, slightly more complex. And now I'm able to offer this to clients and open up an awareness because it all starts with self-awareness, like I've said, and an awareness that really serves them in their growth, okay, in their work. And in their personal or in professional journey of growing, and that's it's a lifelong, really, journey for all of us, isn't it? But so I guess I speak of it from there because I did so much work, like on the personal work with the Enneagram, like so deeply. But it's beautiful because motivational maps, are based. That's one of the theories that was used to create motivational maps. So it's a beautiful. They really go beautifully together. For my own growth, but certainly for my client work. And it's very doable. Like you can understand it very quickly. It doesn't take you a month. You have one conversation and you get. But then, of course, if you're a leader and you want to implement a lot of this, you want to understand it a bit more with tools. So you want to read more about it and do a bit more work on it.
Marie, and then I want to say something else after that.
Okay, and then we're going to wrap up.
Yes,
So the time goes fast. I would actually agree with Suzanne that it's a complement to the work that I was doing with teams. I was using and still use 5 behaviors of a cohesive team to help them really understand how they can achieve their results in their operations. And this has been a beautiful complement to that work. And also really going back to the key point of helping people understand themselves and having a shared language so that they share that with the team. That creates an understanding of their team. So that's really what Motivational Maps has really done for me in my work. All right, and you had one more point, Akila, and then we're going to wrap up.
What Suzanne just said about leaders needing more, I have a 5 weeks course that integrates for them to understand what Motivational Maps is, how it works, and how it works with their teams, how it works in teams. It's 2 hours a week. Well, 90 minutes plus 30 minutes discussion and questions, 2 hours a week over a 5-week period.
Yeah. Now, the more resources, the better. And the resources, they're not a full book. Like, who has time? I encourage leaders, reading, books. I think it's important, but you also need to have, some capacity to fit it in, and to apply it, immediately after.
And you know what? One of the things I believe, and I know you believe, that going there, sitting in a classroom, learning something for one day, you don't get as much out of it. I like people to integrate step by step as they're learning. And that's why all of my training is spread out over time. It's that integration that matters so very much.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, with that, I would again say thank you so much for the time today. And we have a wonderful gift. So typically at the end of these, we offer a complimentary motivational map, a debrief, and a coaching session. And this time, Suzanne has offered her her doing the motivational map, the debrief, and the assessment. So you will see a link at this broadcast that you will be able to win one from her directly. And that is going to be an amazing gift. But if you are interested in working with Suzanne or working with Akilah, Suzanne, where can people find you so that they can reach out to you? I've said LinkedIn, but I'm sure there's other ways.
Well, actually, the best way is LinkedIn. You know,
Okay,
my email is there, and I'm on my email every day, and that is the best and easiest way. And then when they go there, they can also subscribe to the newsletter. Absolutely. And it's not every day; it's every 3 weeks or so, and so it's very doable.
Yes, and just to say about the newsletter, it is a great resource as you've done your maps and you're new to maps. This is still, or you're an expert at maps. It is a wonderful resource that Suzanne has put together that you can use as a tool to really help you learn more about motivational maps. So thank you for that newsletter and those resources. I need to actually subscribe myself. So I'm going to be doing exactly what I've said for people to do. I've been just reading it on LinkedIn, but I need to subscribe too. So,
Great. Well, thank you for having me, both of you. You've been so
it's
gracious.
Wonderful, and we'd love to have you back.
Oh,
yes,
sure. In the fall, we'll find a team with an H. THEMEE.
Definitely we'll need to have you and Marie-France back together because you do a lot of work together. So I want to thank everyone for coming. Akilah, you have something you want to say?
One more thing. As of yesterday, I've opened up the list to start taking names and interviews with people who are potentially interested in training for the maps, because we're starting the next class in October.
Okay. Right.
Wonderful. That's wonderful. Okay. That's wonderful news. And we'll have a link for that as well in this broadcast. But again, ladies, thank you so much for the time today. I hope that everyone watching and watching the rebroadcast will enjoy this. This has been a lovely conversation around really understanding motivational maps, understanding the workplace challenges, and the core needs that we have that really drive our motivations. Thank you.
Well, have a great afternoon and take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.